Hi everyone, this is Wolfie, my parrotlet, and this is the second installment of our beginner's series guide where we're going to show you in a step-by-step way how we taught Wolfie all the tricks that you've seen us do so far. In the second video, I'm going to talk about target training. So why target training? Why is target training important? Target training is very simple yet powerful. It forms the basis of both the simplest tricks as well as the most complex. You want to get your bird to step up on your finger or turn around? Target training is the best way to do it. You want to teach a bird to do a flying high five to you? Well, that requires a lot more steps to teach, but actually the first step is actually using target training. This is the basic building block for teaching Wolfie to play basketball, skateboard, and do all of his cool flight tricks. So what is target training? Target training is essentially getting your pet to go to any location or to turn his attention to a particular target. So how will your pet know what the target is that you want him to go to? Well, it will simply be where you point, either with a stick or how I do it with your finger. But before you start to teach your bird to target, they should ideally already be clicker trained. So if you haven't already clicker trained your bird, do check out my first video lesson on clicker training. So how do we start? The first thing we should do is to teach them to touch a stick with their beak, and I'll call this the target stick. After they have mastered knowing how to go to touch the stick whenever it's presented to them, we can then progress to pointing with the stick and showing them that where we point is where they should go. Well, since Wolfie has already gone way past basic target training and is too familiar with this reed stick, I'm going to try to do a live demonstration of target training using this metal straw instead. So he's not seen this before, so hopefully he'll be unfamiliar enough for me to show you how to target train from scratch. For the purposes of this video, I'm going to target train Wolfie from scratch in one session, and essentially there are three major steps to this whole process. Step 1 is to teach your bird that you're asking them to touch the stick. Step 2 is then showing them that they should go to where we point with the stick. And step 3 is showing them that they should go to where we point with our finger, meaning that we don't need the stick anymore. So now I'm going to start with the first step, which is to ask Wolfie to touch this straw. I'll start by simply slowly moving the straw close to Wolfie, having it within reach of him. I'll wait for his curiosity to take over and for him to reach out to touch the straw, and the moment he does that, I will click and reward him. If your bird isn't curious at all or is a little bit scared, just click and reward even if they simply lean towards the stick or take just one step towards it. Eventually, you'll coax them to go closer and closer until they actually touch it with their beak. And of course, when they do, click and reward profusely. You'll see that I'm repeating the process of putting the straw in front of Wolfie and then clicking and rewarding whenever he touches it. You see that Wolfie's picked this up straight away. He's recognized that touching the straw is what I'm asking for and that it will earn him a treat. I'm clicking and rewarding every time he does this to reinforce his behavior. Now notice how I'm clicking the moment Wolfie's beak touches the straw. So make sure that your click comes immediately after the beak touches the stick. There should be as little delay as possible between the touch and the click. We should repeat this step over and over until our bird's behavior of touching the stick is absolutely reinforced. Ideally, our bird should go straight to the end of the stick the moment they see it, even though it may be quite far away from them. So now that Wolfie has learned step 1, I'll move on to the second step. In the second step, I want to teach Wolfie to go to any spot that I point to with a straw. So for this video, I'll use a new toy, this recycling truck here, as the target spot that I'd like Wolfie to go to. But you can use a low perch or a stand as your target spot when you're doing the training. Now I'm just going to place the straw on the truck. Wolfie already knows that he should go and touch the straw, and now I want him to learn that all he needs to do is to go to where I'm putting the straw. So the moment he puts one foot on the truck, I click and reward him immediately.
Good. Good.
So now you see here, I try to jump a step forward by just pointing the stick at the truck in midair without touching the truck. And then he goes to touch the stick instead of getting on the truck. So I still click and reward this behavior, but then I need to go a step backwards. So for the next one, I'll put the stick again behind the truck so that he has to get on the truck first to get to the stick. So once he gets on the truck, I click and reward so that he starts to understand that what I'm asking for is for him to just go to where the stick is pointing rather than actually having to touch the stick. So if your bird makes a mistake or hasn't quite made the connection in the next step, you just need to slow down and take a step backwards. So I'm reinforcing the behavior that he already knows, which is touching the stick, so that he knows he's on the right track and that he doesn't get confused or frustrated.
Right.
So try not to confuse your bird by targeting too many spots at the same time. Train them using, for example, a low perch for a couple of sessions before moving on to a new target or adding another target spot. So now I'm confident that Wolfie has learned the concept. I start to add more spots to go to, like my fingers and other props like his little seagrass basket here. So I'm doing the same thing, taking turns on where I point with the straw, and you see that Wolfie is now really understanding that the spot where I point the stick is where I'm asking him to go.
Good boy.
So now that Wolfie has mastered this second step, we're going to move on to step 3. In this third step, I'm going to teach Wolfie that where I point with my finger is where I want him to go. Basically, I want to replace the stick with my finger so I don't ever have to use the stick again. It's just so much more convenient not having to use extra props when training, and it's super useful when teaching more complex tricks, as I'll show you later. So how am I going to do this? Well, what I'm going to do is to make the end of the straw an extension of my finger. I'll have the stick pointing out of my finger like so that Wolfie can see my finger and the stick. Then I'll repeat the same steps of pointing at my target and clicking whenever Wolfie goes to that target spot. And as we go along, we'll keep shortening the part of the stick that can be visible, and we'll do this slowly bit by bit until just a little bit of that stick is sticking out from your finger. I just want to say at this point that Wolfie is really used to learning. He already understands the concept of targeting, so please don't be discouraged if your bird doesn't learn as quickly as Wolfie does in this video. It doesn't mean that your bird isn't as smart or that you're not as good as training. Wolfie and I already understand each other really well, and we're so familiar with training together. But ultimately, it's the journey that matters. So I treat training as a time to bond and have fun with Wolfie. So just have fun with it, even if it takes days or months or even years. So I taught Wolfie all of this in like one 15-minute session, but if you're just starting out, the whole process might take several sessions, days, weeks. Just be patient with it and enjoy the process with your bird. Now that I've shortened the stick to virtually nothing of it left, I'm just going to remove the stick completely and point with my finger instead. At that point, your bird should get it if you have reinforced this enough times. But if at any point your bird gets confused or seems not to understand, just go back a step or two, so you can make the visible part of the stick longer, or even just go back to practice touching the stick again. And there you go, that's the secret. So with practice and time, I'm sure you'll be able to recall in station just like how you see us do here. I've also used this method to teach Wolfie to skateboard, high five, fly through hoops, and do a lot of his other fun tricks. So I'll say that this is probably one of the most important videos to watch. I hope you guys like this video. You can consider subscribing, and please feel free to let me know your comments down below. Thanks for watching!